The locked room in my husband's mansion held a truth that destroyed everything I believed. When I first met Richard Prescott, I wasn't looking for love. I was 52, a retired school teacher, recently widowed, and trying to piece my life back together. Richard was 60, charming, thoughtful, and the CEO of a private real estate company. We met at a community fundraiser for underprivileged schools. He donated a library wing. I donated my time. He called me elegantly resilient. I said he was dangerously charismatic. We laughed over tea, then dinners, and 6 months later, I moved into his beautiful mansion on the outskirts of Vermont. It wasn't just a house, it was a statement. Vaulted ceilings, antique chandeliers, warm mahogany floors, and rooms that smelled faintly of lavender and old books. Every inch of the house whispered wealth, taste, and history. But one door remained shut. At the end of the west hallway on the second floor, behind thick oak panels, was a room Richard said was off-limits. "It's just storage," he told me once with a tight smile. "Old memories. Nothing worth your curiosity." I respected his boundary, for a while. We had a good marriage, at least on the surface. He brought me roses every Thursday, called me his second chance, and made me feel seen again. But some nights, he would stand in that hallway outside the locked room, just staring. Sometimes I'd catch him whispering under his breath. Other times, he would pace, and when he'd see me, he'd smile too quickly and say, "Just thinking about business." I let it go. Until I found the photograph. It was tucked inside one of his old books in the study, a picture of a woman sitting on the edge of a fountain, laughing, in a white sundress. I froze. She looked like me. No, not just resembled me. She looked exactly like me. Hair swept the same way. Same dimpled smile. Same posture. Same, everything. I flipped the photo. On the back, in Richard's neat handwriting. "To Elizabeth, forever, no matter what. But, my name is Grace." The discovery haunted me. That night, I couldn't sleep. Richard was away on a business trip in Boston. I walked through the mansion's silent halls, barefoot, past portraits and candle sconces, toward the forbidden door. I don't know what came over me, but I took a paperclip from the sewing room and picked the lock, something I'd only ever seen in movies. It clicked open far too easily. The air inside was cold and undisturbed. The room was preserved like a shrine. A dust-covered vanity, pale yellow wallpaper, a single four-poster bed with lace covers, and on the desk, an old leather-bound diary. And the scent, lavender and something else. Something old and sad. The first page of the diary read: "Property of Elizabeth Prescott. If found, please return to my husband, Richard." I turned pale. Prescott. Her last name. My husband's last name. I sat on the edge of the bed and began to read. Each page was filled with tender words. Elizabeth wrote about her life with Richard, their love story, their fights, her love for painting, her longing to have children. But slowly, her tone changed. The entries darkened. "Richard says I'm imagining things again. I heard someone whispering my name last night. I swear I saw someone in the mirror. He locked the room to keep me safe, but I think he's hiding something from me. If something happens to me, please know, I tried to leave. I tried to remember who I was before. But he won't let me go." I dropped the diary. My hands trembled. My throat was dry. What was this? A story? A warning? Then I saw the painting, leaning behind the dresser. A portrait of Elizabeth. It was like looking in a mirror. Richard returned the next evening. I waited for him in the sitting room, the diary on the table between us. He looked at it. Then at me. And his face crumbled. "So, you opened the room." I didn't say a word. I just stared. My heartbeat was deafening. He sank into the chair and stared at his hands. She was my wife. My first wife. She died in that house. Suicide. Or maybe it was an accident. I never really knew. But she was. She looked like me. I whispered. Identical, he nodded. It shook me when I met you. I didn't mean to fall in love again. Not with someone who looked like her. But you were different. You were alive. She wasn't well. I couldn't breathe. My identity, my marriage, even my presence in that house, all now felt like a replacement. Did you ever truly love me? I asked. He looked up. Tears in his eyes. Yes. But I also loved her. And sometimes I didn't know where one ended and the other began. I couldn't stay. I packed a bag and moved to a rented cottage by the lake. Quiet. Simple. Mine. For weeks, I sat with the diary. I read every page. I cried for Elizabeth. For myself. For the truth buried under silence and grief. Then, I did something I never expected. I painted her. A full canvas. Not as me. Not as a memory. But as the woman she was, bright, fragile, beautiful, lost, and still reaching out. I sent the painting to Richard. With a note. She was real. And so was I. But I won't be her ghost. 2 years later, I now volunteer at an art center for women rediscovering themselves after loss. I teach painting on Mondays. I tell stories on Thursdays. Sometimes, I still dream of that mansion. Of the locked door. Of Richard's eyes, torn between the past and present. But I never became Elizabeth. I found grace again. Not someone's second chance. Just me. Free.